What is up, comic book fans? Thank you so much for coming to hang out with us on the Local Comic Podcast. This is a little bit of a public service announcement that what you're getting ready to watch does and will contain spoilers. We are talking about new releases. We are talking about books that have not been out very long, probably. And so if you are reading any of these series that we're talking about, they'll be listed in the description below. And you do not want spoilers, if you're not caught up, just give us a pause, go read that book, and come back and hang out with us. Otherwise, buckle up and let's talk some comics. What is up, comic book fans? We are back with the Local Comic Podcast, and this is the Absolute Show. And we are back with you like we are just about every week, except last week, so we're very happy to be back. But as always, it is me, your boy, Travie, TrekWars. And across the state here, we've got my guy, Phil, Rebel Recess. How you doing, man?
I'm good, man. It's Super Bowl Sunday, so that means I'm gonna be upset in two ways because I don't like whoever's gonna win, and all my bets are probably gonna miss. So it's
That typically happens. It'll be insult to injury kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like, a 1 yard miss. You know all about that. A 1 yard miss, a one basket miss, a one rebound,
basket,
2
one
points.
leg, one everything. It doesn't. It's just always one away.
That's what we get.
Just one away.
That's what we get. So, it's been a minute. Everybody got sick. Everybody is sick.
Not me. I'm
Not
good.
Me neither. So I don't know what it is. Maybe more people need to do comic podcasts. I don't know, but maybe it's all the glue and the ink from reading these comic books that are just kind of keeping us. I'm just kidding. Don't nobody take that. Somebody's gonna run with that. I am not giving medical advice.
It's probably gonna backfire.
It's gonna backfire.
It's gonna catch up to us later.
This is the end of the podcast right here. This is the moment. Somebody's gonna say I gave out bad medical advice. But no, I don't know, man. I didn't get it. You didn't get it. Everybody got the flu but us. So yeah, I don't know, man. But I'm happy. I'm happy I didn't get it. Lord knows I don't need it.
Definitely don't need it.
But yeah, so it was kind of a convenient week to miss last week because we didn't really have a book, right? I mean, we covered Absolute Wonder Woman #4, and then we had the break week. Yeah, so it was a convenient week to miss. There wasn't a lot of news that came out. But we got a lot happening this week. It's a big week for comics. We had a release this week. We got some news this week. We got some logo reveals that just came across about 5 minutes before we started this. And yeah, we got a lot to cover. And it's MegaCon week. So if anybody has any extra money in your pocket,
It's MegaCon week and I have no extra money.
there are a literal million MegaCon exclusive variants out there for just about every series you can think of. And again, you guys know that I kind of work a little bit with Cover Price and do some of the stuff for their Shaker Show. I have nothing to do with this, but I have no problem absolutely pumping this. They have gone above and beyond and put together an exclusive list solely for MegaCon. It is literally one of the most comprehensive lists I've ever seen from before a con starts. And I know that team has been putting in massive amounts of work to make this list for you guys. So it is free. It is available. You can just go and look at it, and it's there. So I would highly advise that you just go check that out and see if there's any series on there that you like or any series that you don't read but you just love the exclusive for it, because there are some really good ones. One of my favorite ones that I've seen, I don't know if it's an exclusive to MegaCon, but I believe you can get it, and it's like a 4-pack. It's got 2 Joker covers, a foil reprint facsimile of Joker #1 from back in the day, and then it also has an ash can black and white Batman 158 Hush 2 issue 1 that comes with it. I think all in all for the set of 4, it's like $70, and I'm like almost pulled the trigger a couple times just for the ash can.
Yeah, I'm tempted now.
Yeah, it's a good deal. I got the link. If you want it, I'll send it to you.
Send it.
Yeah. But yeah, so 3 Joker books and then the Hush Ashcan. So that's exciting. A lot of stuff, a lot of exciting things just happening in the comic world this week. I mean, we finally got our teaser we were all waiting for Fantastic Four.
Oh, that was this week?
It was this week, right?
God, it's been a long week.
It has
If
been
you
a
would
long
have,
week.
I would have said that was 2-3 weeks ago.
Yeah, it's this. That was literally Tuesday, man.
Wow, that's crazy. Don't talk. Well, I did watch Fantastic Four because I needed a taste. I got my taste. I did not watch Jurassic Park
I didn't either.
because it's dying. Don't give us a Don't ruin it. Just leave it alone. Just give me the movie. The movie's been stinking for some reason. I have high hopes for it. Probably wrong. I shouldn't have high hopes for it, but it's a dinosaur movie. How are you gonna mess it up?
Well,
They keep doing over and over again.
yep. Well, I haven't seen. I actually haven't seen that one yet. I didn't watch it, but we do have kind of a busy July here. I think overall. I mean, we got, like you said, Jurassic Park. We've got Superman, and then we've got Fantastic Four.
Loaded.
The one thing I will say about the Fantastic Four, and again, we know this is the absolute show, but it's impossible for us to stay on task sometimes. They absolutely nailed the thing. The CGI is absolute perfection.
They nailed everything. I've been screaming from the rooftops. It's got to be that old school style Fantastic Four. Like they nailed the era with a little bit of futuristic touches, and then you got to make Thing look like the Thing. You're gonna have to wait. We have an interruption here. You have to wait, bro. Yeah, they nailed it. And then the trailer's so good because like I remember the first thing you said was, "Well, we didn't see Reed, stretch or nothing." Like, no, save it for the movie.
I agree.
Like, still keep things that we haven't seen yet.
And I think it's beneficial to maybe leave a little bit of that there, and also let's be honest, in all likelihood, they're probably still fine tuning some of the special effects.
Oh, definitely.
And I would say of all of the special effects that are going to be needed for that movie, that one's got to be the one that's the biggest headache. I would guess.
Once you pull off the look of the Thing, the next hardest thing is making the stretchiness not look weird.
Yeah.
Like that's the hardest task they then have next. So
Right.
yeah, work on it. Don't show us until it's done.
Yeah, I agree. Because if it looked bad, then you guarantee people would be up in arms, right? Like
they would be livid.
Yeah.
I'd be livid.
I think Marvel's doing the right thing. I think they're being very careful with what they roll out and making sure that it looks exactly how they want it to look. And I think they really want to control the narrative with this movie because let's be honest, there's a lot riding on this movie, and they're certainly trying to make sure that they can just give people enough to get excited, to not pick much apart, and
I just want to talk about where the movie's go. Like I'm going to say it. I hope the movie, if you've seen the trailer, whatever, we know Galactus, whatever, and we do know that this is separate from the MCU. I hope that the Earth gets destroyed. Like I hope it ends in peril. I need more Marvel movies to end in pain, like Infinity War. And then that's how the Fantastic Four are just off, they escape, whatever, and end up here with us. But that's what I need. I need pain. I need I need Earth to be destroyed. That is my hope. Do it, Disney. Don't be afraid to do it. Let Galactus eat.
Put your big boy britches on and go destroy that. Go destroy that planet.
I want it to end in pain.
I need a gut punch to walk out of the theater with.
Yes.
We don't need happy endings.
I don't want a happy ending.
Oh well, you might get your chance because I think it's very very obvious that it's not set in the 616.
Right.
So we already know. We all kind of assumed that when they said it was going to be set in the 60s, that we were going to get some alternate universe stuff with this group. So I'm really excited. I know people were kind of skeptical about Pedro Pascal as Reed. I have learned to stop being skeptical about Pedro Pascal.
He's so good.
He's so good in everything he does. He really is, and that's not a fanboy thing or anything like that. Like there have been plenty of times when he was cast as Joel for The Last of Us, I was like, okay, he's in a lot of stuff right now. Like, does this feel like a popularity pick maybe? But you watch it and he's like, oh, okay, yeah, no, he's perfect. this is a perfect casting. And he always tends to do that. He always tends to really suit whatever role that he's cast into and that he takes. So I have really zero concerns whatsoever about him as Reed. Um, you know, it's just I think it's going to be great. I'm so excited about the Thing. I'm excited about Herbie. The Thing has eyebrows. I'm all about it. You know what I mean? It looks
So
good.
good.
It looks so good. So yeah. So I don't want to burn too much more time on it, but we got a big
Yeah, we gotta get
July
to
coming up.
absolute.
Yeah, we got a big July coming up. But we are here to talk about the Absolute Universe, and we had a release this week finally. Oh my God, and it did not disappoint. It was very, very, very much an enjoyable issue. So before we go any further, man, are you ready to get rolling?
I'm ready.
Let's do
Absolute
it.
Superman 4. Let's get it.
All right. And with Absolute Superman 4, we had quite a bit happening. So I'm going to do the recap before we go any further here. I'm always going to say this, and I'm always going to put the warning at the beginning of the video. So if you are listening or watching, this is like your second or third warning. So here we go. Spoiler warning, because we are going to cover this book in totality, or however you want to say it. We're just gonna cover the whole book. So the book itself, I thought was extremely, extremely high energy. There was not really a lull whatsoever as far as the action is concerned. There's a lot of moving pieces here and some first appearances. I'm just going to start off kind of from the jump, right off the get go. The last issue ended with the weird Martha Kent kind of reaching out, asking for her boy. We got nothing to do with that here.
Not a thing.
Not a single thing. And additionally, we got no talk about previous Krypton, so none of the origin or anything like that. This issue was largely a Lois Lane issue, and it was worth it because we are really getting a look at this Lois. And I've got to be honest with you, man. I know she was kind of smitten with him in the second issue. I've gotten here to the fourth issue, and I'm reading through this, and I'm like, do I trust this Lois? like, do I or should I trust this Lois right now? Because I don't even know. Because it makes you feel a certain way. But off the jump, we get this really cool panel, and it's going from country to country, from location to location, and everywhere that Kal-El has been, and Lois is interviewing different people that he's helped. So there's like the U.S., South Africa, Egypt, Belarus, all over the place, and she's going around and she's questioning people, trying to find out information so that she can track down Cal, and nobody wants to talk to her because she works for Lazarus, and she's trying to tell people, oh, but I know you don't trust Lazarus, but right now I'm not with Lazarus, blah blah blah. And a very interesting thing happens where she's talking to a lady in Egypt, and the lady has a wound, something's happened to her, like she's gotten hurt, and she's got her head's bandaged and wrapped, and the very next scene is Lois just beating the holy hell out of some guy named Crenshaw, who was a peacemaker, and she beat him down. I mean, she had like this electric baton or whatever, and she beat the crap out of this guy.
She shoved it in his mouth, I think.
She
Right?
did, and then
She's
and then
vicious.
yeah, she is vicious. She is hardcore. And so while I'm reading this, I'm like, okay, she's kind of hardcore. Do I trust it? Do I really trust it? But I even took the little interior screen here just to kind of show. After she beat the crap out of this peacemaker, she said, you're under arrest. She broke his hand because she found out he likes to cut people or whatever. So she breaks his hand, like just absolutely beats this dude down, and he is way bigger than she is. Yeah, so she picks him apart. And then it kind of cuts again to her kind of talking. Going back to her meeting with these people, but these people are now talking to her and telling her that you'll never find him. As soon as he's here, he's gone. You'll never find him. He's just here to help us. And so we kind of see her moving forward, going to I believe it's the Middle East somewhere, trying to track him. Um, a little piece of dialogue that I wrote down that like I said, it's making me, I'm just unsure, right? Like, so Superman, if you can hear me, your friends were wrong. I'm not chasing the storm. I am the storm, and you can't hide from me forever. And it's like, okay, all right, you're giving me weird vibes here. So General Lane calls Lois and tells her that she needs to chill out, stop pushing back on the security detail, blah blah blah. And she says, "I'm sorry, but you're retired. You can't give me an order." And then they pan out, and turns out General Lane, he ain't got no legs.
Lieutenant Dan.
We got General Lieutenant Dan Lane. And yeah, so we don't know what has happened up to that point, but we will figure it out a little bit later. But so Lane calls her and warns her about the activity of the Omega Men in the area, and if anybody is following Left Arrows, which you should be, this issue was on the FOC. The FOC report to pick up, and I believe it was on the new comic book day to pick up for the first appearance of the Absolute Omega Men, and we do get that here. But he's warning Lois about the Omega Men and their operations in the area. She tells him to chill and basically hangs up the phone. She says something along the lines of him being of Superman not being dangerous and him being some kind of I don't remember what the word was. It was like pansy or hippie boy. It was a hippie boy. She calls him some kind of a hippie boy, which I thought was humorous because this Superman is really angry. So Lane tells her the story. General Lane tells her a story about. Sorry, these things are driving me nuts. Is telling her a story about how he lost his friend to the Omega Men, and she's like, "Oh, I know, I saw. You made me watch the video at a young age." So she goes back out, and then she is jumped by a familiar face, and we get a first appearance that I don't think we knew about. Well, not yet. But yeah, but we get a familiar face who we haven't seen yet, but who basically holds her up at gunpoint. She says, "You don't know what you're doing here," and they go at it for a little bit. All the while, one of the Peacemakers from a previous. Correct me if I'm wrong. Was this the Peacemaker from the previous issue?
I don't know if it was the previous issue, but I think.
I'm sorry, the second issue. My bad.
Yes. Yeah. Christopher Smith. No. Yes.
Christopher something, yeah.
Smith, I think it's Smith.
Yeah. So all the while this is happening, Christopher Smith is doing his wellness check with Brainiac, or I'm sorry, the Brainiac algorithm,
right,
which is not an algorithm whatsoever. It is actually just Brainiac, and saying that he needs to be locked up. That he couldn't handle it when everybody was laughing at him when Superman showed up, and he was ready to just unload on civilians and all this other stuff. And Brainiac's like, "No, your weapon malfunctioned. Nobody was killed. That was your peacekeeper training. Your weapon malfunctioned. I suggest you go back into a highly volatile area." Blah blah blah. And so he places him into another war zone, basically. And knowingly sends him back out there, and the dude is like screaming like, "Hey, no, I need to be locked up," blah blah blah. I don't know if he said locked up, but he was basically saying something like that.
I don't want to interrupt, but I have to interrupt.
Yeah.
So that whole sequence,
yeah,
it made me think of, I think it's the first Transformers. I think it's the first where the guy married to Fergie, what's his name? Josh Duhamel. He calls. And the operator on the other end, he's trying to reach the government, and he's like, "Do you have minutes? Do you have this?" So I was like, we're fighting robots here. Like, I need help. That's what I kept picturing. Because every time this guy's saying something bad, he's like, we'll fix it. It's good. That's what just made me laugh.
Yeah, he's like, it's like Brainiac understands you. Your gun misfired.
Yeah, he's not listening to anything he's saying whatsoever.
He said, "No, that's not what I'm saying. The weapon was defective. It'll be recalled and repaired. We'll get you a new one." This concludes your therapy session.
It's really funny.
Yeah, like and you feel bad because the dude is like completely gone. Like he's like crying and everything like that. But like Brainiac is this concludes your therapy session. Thank you for your service. Now go back to it. So that while all that's going on, Lois has run into this Omega Man, or this member of the Omega Men, and he Lois kind of turns the tables on him and says, I obviously think you're one of the Omega Men and you're here to kill me, and he's like, yeah, it's not what it is though, and so then they kind of go at it a little bit. They have a pretty good fight. Lois does obviously end up kicking his ass. We come to find out that this guy is called Agent Alpha, I believe.
Yeah.
Or Omega Alpha or something
There's
like that.
Omega and Alpha. There was a couple names that were.
Yeah. So yeah, he's been called Alpha. And when he ultimately can't, they have a conversation. Basically saying, you need to accept the truth that the Omega Men are actually trying to do the right thing, and that Lazarus is trying to destroy the world. Blah blah blah. You need to come to reason. Blah blah blah. He eventually was like, but I've run out of time, so you need to run. And as soon as he says that, gunfire opens up, and it's this other Omega character named Omega Prime. And they actually call her Primus later on, and we'll talk about that in just a minute. I'm not sure who this is. I have some ideas, but we'll see. But Omega Prime, and then... So Lois, just kind of back to the Brainiac thing. Lois calls for assistance, or I'm sorry, Brainiac. It's like the Brainiac automated system has detected gunfire. And it's like, and so she like pulls her sidearm out, and she's like, she said, please use non-lethal rounds. He goes, all right, it's something like eliminator rounds engaged, and so like. He's just like put in like the most deadly rounds they have when she asks for non-lethal, and it's just like, dude, this Brainiac thing is just tripping me out. Like, it's just like the worst AI ever. So anyway, the Peacemakers hear it. They're saying, shots fired. We got to get out there. Blah blah blah. And they're running through the town. They're knocking people out of the way, and the guy who's at the front of it is Christopher Smith, who was just reassigned by Brainiac. So they're running to the fight, and then we get basically a one-on-one fight between Lois and Omega Prime. And she says, you can call me Primus. And she goes something along the lines of, you should know me pretty well. I'm an old friend of the family. And then implies that she was the one that actually cut off General Lane's legs.
Well, it was a funny joke. It's like, how's he doing? I've heard he's shorter these days or something like that.
Yeah, it was pretty humorous. Like, she's
great.
She was talking that trash as it was happening. So it was a pretty big fight. And in the middle of the fight, Alpha comes back and pulls a gun, and Primus says, "Are you pulling that gun on her or me?" And he goes, I'm not sure." And right about that time, you start to see all this red dust start to kind of swirl around them. And I just got to be honest, that might be my favorite thing about this Superman.
It was really cool.
It's just that dust cape thing is just so flippin' cool. And the fact that it kind of leaves a trace everywhere he's at and everything, it's just I like it. It's like a really neat wrinkle to the character. But the dust kind of like blows both the Omega people back. It goes around Lois, and then finally he shows up. I believe that Omega Prime. Or Primus runs and like is asking for Superman to help them, like, hey, we're on the same side, blah blah blah, and he like knocks her into next week, and so she's gone. And Superman basically tells Lois to stop trying to find him. He says, you have no reason to be looking for me. Stop trying to find me. And she said, I just want to talk. And she said, I have nothing to say to you. And then about that time, here come the idiot peacekeepers, and they roll up. They see Superman. They said freeze, and he said no, you. And he uses the ice breath, freezes them all, and that's pretty much the end of that. He takes off. and Omega Alpha pulls out his phone to hold up his camera and take a picture. And this was like my favorite thing of the whole issue was when he flies away after freezing all these dudes and leaves Lois and Alpha there standing next to each other. The Omega Alpha mask starts to come back, and you see all this, and you've already seen the red hair, but you see all this red hair and the green eyes and this kind of wonder, and I probably should have figured it out sooner, but it was that moment that I knew exactly who this was because of the camera, and it come to find out that Omega Alpha is actually this version of Jimmy Olsen. So we're actually getting Jimmy Olsen now, which is really cool. He's a little bit more hardcore than the Jimmy Olsen we're used to, but still very cool. We get kind of a little fast forward where he's talking to Primus in an alley, and she slaps him across the face or whatever, saying it's his fault, and all he does is keep watching. All he does is keep watching the video of Superman over and over again, saying that he thinks Lois is just on the wrong side and that she's got a good heart, and Primus is saying like no chance. And then finally, the end of it all, and this is where I think we're going to be. The next issue is probably going to be. We're going to see some anger, probably. Old Christopher Smith shows up again, and everybody's kind of laughing at them in the ice, or at least he feels like they are. And he kind of blacks out, and then he kind of comes back, and everybody's holding him back, and he's like, they're all laughing, and they're like, what are you talking about? He said, you just rained down fire on these people, and he had just killed all of the civilians. He like blacked out and just shot all of the civilians that were around, and I have the slightest feeling that we're going to see some payment for that coming in the next issue, because I don't believe that Cal is going to enjoy that very much. So.
Well, and it tells you on that final page, I think it says Superman's Rage or something.
Oh yeah, right there. Yeah, it says next, the Rage of Superman, of the
Yeah.
Superman. Yep. So he literally just shot all of them, but he's in restraints and everything. He has no idea what happened. She's like completely like tripped out or something, man. But yeah, so that was kind of it in a nutshell. Kind of an all over kind of review. I kind of bounced around a little bit, moved forward, then moved backwards some. So, but overall, we did get to see. I thought a pretty cool issue overall. A lot of action, a lot of Lois FaceTime, which I'm very happy about, because this Lois is a badass. I mean, she's a badass. Now, again, I don't know what her deal is or what she thinks she needs with Superman. We don't really know that yet, or at least doesn't seem like her intentions are clear there. But overall, it was interesting to see some of the Omega men start to show up, and interesting that Jimmy is one of them. But just I thought a really cool kind of throwback to him taking the picture of Superman taking off in the video or whatever, and then just watching it over and over again. It was just really cool, I thought. So that's the little synopsis, or not really a synopsis. That's pretty much a start to finish review of it. But before I go any further, what did you think?
Excuse me, sorry. I liked it. I like you said, Lois, heavily Lois, but she's awesome. I love her cut. I don't know, like, as interesting you said, trust her. I don't know if I ever had trusted her to begin with, which is weird to think about, but I definitely don't know her intentions, because she's with Lazarus, but she's speaking to people. It's as if she doesn't want to do Lazarus. She rebelled against like how to do her reports. She always rebels against her father, so that's nothing new. But it's like, what is her end game with Superman?
Right.
So I don't know what her goal is. And then, but it's also funny that you have Jimmy then at the end saying, "I think she is good. She's just on the wrong side." But like, I don't even picture her on a side other than her own right now.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm curious to see what is her end game.
And that's an interesting parallel to Prime Lois, I guess, if we're just going to call it. I'm just going to call it Prime Universe, because that's what I've always called it. But Prime Lois is very much, she works for the planet, but if the planet was owned by, a piece of crap or an evil person, she wouldn't care. She has no allegiance to
Right.
the planet. Her allegiance is to the truth, right?
Right.
And this very much seems like, now that I think about it, if you took like Prime Lois and put her in a situation like this, I believe it would probably be very similar. So, maybe we are getting a very similar Lois, just in kind of a different shell, but it's very much
Right.
the same character, the same kind of attitude, the same kind of ideals, like the same kind of morals. It seems maybe a little more hardcore. I think this Lois would easily shoot somebody, where I'm not sure Prime Lois would. But I do think that like the baseline, like her allegiance is to like the truth, whatever that may be, or good, whatever she thinks good is. I'm not sure she believes that Lazarus is good, but I also don't know if she believes that why she's going along with it. So it's kind of weird. But she's a complex character, which is great because um, when you can make the characters around Superman more complex as well, it really adds to the story. It makes it a little more rich for me. Um, so, uh, favorite part?
And it may be weird because I feel like we don't, it's a Superman book. We're on 4, but we don't haven't gotten a lot of Superman.
None
But
almost.
maybe after the issues where he's a boy on Krypton and doing all this stuff, there's the moment where he lands and he's just looking, and his face looked very like young,
Yeah,
very boyish. And I'm like, and it hit me. I'm like, did it look like that before when we saw him in like the first issue? But I really like that because I don't maybe from reading it, whatever. I'm like, it still feels like
he's not
I
sure.
don't. He's not sure. He seems still innocent in a way. Like I
Yeah,
know he's been doing stuff, but it's just I still pictured him as that boy on Krypton that we've been reading about recently.
yeah,
And so I don't know. I thought that was just a cool thing. It made me stop and like study and just
yeah.
think about where he's at now and where he's been. And
Well,
there's so much we don't even know about.
I know on multiple issues that or multiple episodes of the show that we have talked about, this Superman is like angry. Like he's angry. He is
Hmm.
not. He's very much not the. Um, Not to say that Prime Superman never gets angry. He absolutely does. But like this dude is like he's brooding. Like he broods like Batman. Like you know what I mean? Like he's like this is a Superman I imagine flying off somewhere and just like turning on some cure and just really just raging at the
Right.
world for a little bit. Yeah, so this is Superman if he found the cure. But I just I'm kind of with you. I love the kind of young aspect of it because he isn't sure of himself, right? Like we're getting that a little bit with Batman, but it almost seems like Batman is more sure of himself in his book than this Superman is. And maybe it's just because we haven't got a lot of time with this Superman. Jason Aaron is really taking his time on like making it about Superman right now.
Yeah.
Everything is about Superman, but we're not getting any. I mean, outside of that first issue, we got some interior stuff, some interior monologue, and him talking to Soul. But since that, it's been almost nothing to do with Cal. It's certainly not in present day. So I'm interested, but you gotta imagine that we're probably going to get quite a bit of that if the lead up was the rage of Superman, right? Um,
Right.
and we've been talking about this. He seems like he's a little he could pop off. He's a little angry. He hates the class warfare, and he hates the persecution of the poor and less fortunate, and because that's what happened on his planet. So I think it's going to be fairly interesting to see how he reacts to the Peacekeepers, who he clearly already has a major problem with. And I think something very interesting that Lois was saying was, with all this, his body count is exactly 0.
0.
He's killed nobody.
Right.
So
Very interesting.
it would be interesting to see if that holds up now.
Well, yeah, and so then to build on that, we know Rage is coming. We know Christopher Smith probably is the set, whatever. But like you said, we haven't gotten a lot of Superman, so we don't know his actual mode. He keeps showing up around Lazarus stuff, so
Yeah,
obviously you would think that he's trying to do something. Does he know Brainy? I mean, I don't know what he. We don't know what he knows as far as the company's involved.
right,
It seems the Omega Men do because they're attacking as well.
right.
Um, so there's a lot to be revealed,
Yep.
and but
I
mostly what he's trying to do.
I've kind of loved how Jason Aaron has given us a lot of story, but has also not given us
Not the main story,
right. Like
not the
he's
yeah.
giving us so much story, but I feel like I literally have no idea what is going to happen in this main story. Like I have no idea what the end game is. I have no idea what this Kal-El is trying to do, or what he's even focused on doing, or if he is even focused on doing anything, or if he's just a total wild card. But it's pretty wild to see how much story we're getting and how much backstory we're getting and how much of this introduction we're getting, and it's so satisfying and enjoyable. But I feel like we haven't even scratched the surface on this on this main story so far.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's crazy. But all right, so I'm gonna do my rating scale. I don't have the little thing to pop up here yet, but so we're giving it what omegas? How many omegas are we giving it? I'm gonna give it. I'll give it. I was gonna give it 3.5, but 4 for the Jimmy. I'll give it 4 for Jimmy.
I was gonna do 3.5.
Yep. I'm giving it the half omega bump for Jimmy Olsen. Real quick before we move on, who do you think Primus is?
I immediately thought of Lana. It's gonna be someone we know.
Yeah,
So I think that
Lana
was the
was
first
my
one that popped in my head.
Lana was the first one that popped up to me too. Interesting to see where that goes. But yeah, I immediately thought it might be Lana. So yeah, it's going to be somebody though. You're right. It's definitely going to be somebody we know because there's going to be a reveal at some point. So, but yeah, so another great issue. This book is just it's great. This is just really 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 solid. Jason Aaron and massive gut punch at the end. So yeah, like it was great. It's very very much setting up the 5th issue, which we're all very excited about. And speaking of the 5th issue, let's talk about what else is coming up. So, with the release schedule, we've got a handful, and we're going to talk about Absolute Day, which is coming up this week. It's not officially Absolute Day, but it might as well be.
AD, it's called AD.
Yeah, just AD. Yeah, and take your money to the comic book store if you haven't caught up, or if you're just trying to get some of these later printings. I don't know for sure how many of these they're printing. They don't really give that out all that often. But typically, the later the printings go, a little bit more scarce they can get. And I don't know though with these on the 12th that they're going to be all that scarce. I think they're gonna print these printings heavy. Because this is what I believe. This is DC, I believe, trying to get people caught up if they have not been able to get these books up until now.
Mm-hmm.
So let's start with the 12th. That's this Wednesday, so it'll be tomorrow for those of you who are listening on release day of this. So it'll be this Wednesday on the 12th. Most importantly, we are getting a new book. It's not all releases. It's not all re-releases. We are getting a new book, and it is Absolute Batman number 5.
Ooh-wee!
And I actually already saw a little bit of a preview from this.
Ooh.
So we are getting some more Black Mask FaceTime. And I believe we're going to have some Black Mask and Batman back and forth. Now, I don't know if that means fighting. I don't know if that means chatting. I don't know what it means, but we're certainly going to be pushing that story. So we're going to get some more Black Mask finally. So I'm excited about that. The Party Animals storyline has been so good. We're also getting Absolute Batman number 1, 5th printing, number 2, 3rd printing, and number 3, 2nd printing. And again, this is all on the 12th. We're getting Absolute Superman number 1, 3rd printing, and Absolute Superman number 2, 2nd printing. Then we're going to get Absolute Wonder Woman number 1, 4th printing, number 2, 3rd printing, number 3, 2nd printing. So you're going to have the ability to basically catch yourself up here, because even though we just reviewed Absolute Superman number 4, issue 3 is readily available. And issue 4 is readily available. Most of your LCSs are going to have those, and if they don't, they're very gettable online for cover price. You do not have to pay that much. There's no markup on those. They're not hard to get right now. So they're just re-releasing these ones that have sold out, and are running another printing of these books that have officially sold out of first printing. So they're making it, I believe, making it easier. And I don't think they've made any announcement about this, but it just seems like this is the obvious like end game here of what they're trying to do. So it gives people an opportunity to buy these books and get caught up. Additionally, on February 12th, New Gods #1 second printing, which is a really quick turnaround on that book, because it has not been out very long, and it is hitting a second printing on the 12th as well. And the second printing cover is awesome. It was actually on the slide on our last episode, but it's very cool. It's like all blue. It looks really good. Yeah. So obviously, you're most excited about Absolute Batman #5 coming out that day. You picking up any of these extra printings?
I don't know. My comic shop, for whatever reason, has not had a bunch of. It's maybe different now since it's like a dedicated day. But I'll take a look. My hand's a little light. I try not to go too heavy on those Wednesdays. We'll see. I might pick up an extra one or something.
I think if you've been keeping up until now, this day is probably not going to be as big of a day for you.
Right.
I think it's mostly cover grabs at that point, right? Like if you see, because I do believe that all of the #1s are going to be re-released in the Jim Lee with the Jim Lee covers from the original, from the first printing cover Bs. All of the issue 1s of this series had a cover B that was done by Jim Lee. So all of the #1s of this re-release are going to be those Jim Lee covers. Those are now going to be the cover A's, and they're going to be recolored. I think they're all like red or something like that. So they look great. And so if you've seen any of the Jim Lee ones, you know what they look like. The cover isn't going to be very different. Now, I think we do have multiple covers of each printing, which is just... It's a lot. I mean, there's like I think there's a cover B for each of the #1s. So they're really going all out, but there are going to be some cover grabs here. For me, I don't know. I'm definitely going to get Absolute Batman #5. To be honest, I'm probably going to get New Gods #1 second printing because I just really love the cover.
Have you read that yet?
Oh, I'm all caught up.
I need to catch up.
It is, dude. I don't even know what to tell you. I can't even explain it. Like, if anybody else is listening to this and reading New Gods, you can't really explain it. Like, it's insane. It's absolutely insane, and it's so they do so good. They do such a good job. They do such a good job introducing characters that we already know, but like being able to work them into the story. So, we're seeing Metron, we're seeing, Light Ray, the High Father, all of these that we're used to seeing. But Orion, who is just awesome, Big Barda. So we're seeing all these that we're used to seeing, but we're also getting some new ones. The newest and most like notable one, Karak Ator or Karak Ator. I don't know how to exactly say it, but I think it's Karak Ator, who is just this brutal dude. Just an absolutely like massive, like tons of armor, like carrying this massive like sword spear thing. He's a straight beast. So yeah, that's one. Yeah, that definitely get caught up on it because I think it's a limited series. I'm looking on previews earlier today, and it says on the pre-order it says they have issue 5 up for pre-order, and it says 5 of 12. So I think it's just going to be a limited 12 issue series, but it's going to matter. I mean, and it matters for the Absolute Universe somewhat because it's dealing with Darkseid.
Right.
Yeah, it's a great read all on its own. Like, separate of the Absolute Universe, it is just an unbelievable read. So yeah, caught up on it. Was very happy to be caught up on it because I was like, man, I should have been on this the day it dropped because it's so good. But yeah, so that I'm probably going to pick up that second printing for sure. I did get the first printings of 1 and 2. On February 19th, kind of crazy, New Gods #2 is going to hit a second printing. So we're going to get New Gods #1 second printing on the 12th, and then the very next week we're going to get New Gods #2 second printing on the 19th. additionally, that will be the release of New Gods number 3 on the 19th as well. And that will have it's actually the cover featured right here on the slide here. It's a first cover appearance of Karakator. And I think the cover B is a first cover appearance too. It was actually the thumbnail on Lando's show a week ago or something like that, maybe 2 weeks ago. But I can't remember the character's name now, and it's embarrassing because I just read this. But yeah, so there's a first cover appearance there. So if you can get the cover A and B, you can get a couple first cover appearance books for New Gods number 3. And then finally, on February 26th, we have Absolute Wonder Woman number 5 to round out our February release slate before we go into March, where all hell will break loose.
Madness!
There are so many releases. And I'll give you guys just a preview. I actually have them all right here. Give me 1 second. I'll give you guys just a preview. Where is it? All right. Absolute releases. We've got, it looks like tentatively, Flash number 1 and Green Lantern number 1 are going to release on the same day. And they're going to be releasing on the same week as New Gods. So Flash, Green Lantern, and New Gods will all be out on the same week. I think that we got that tentatively at 3/19, March 19th. Wonder Woman and Martian Manhunter will release together. So Wonder Woman and Martian Manhunter are going to be releasing on the same week. So you'll be able to pick both of those up on the same week. You'll be able to pick Flash and Green Lantern up on the same week. And if you are reading New Gods, you can pick that up. Batman and Superman will still have their own weeks, of course. They're still riding solo.
So we're getting 6 books in March.
6 books in March, not even counting New Gods. 7 if you're counting New Gods.
That's wild.
Yep.
So excited.
A lot of reading, and it's great. It's so great to and I think this is the point, right? Like this is what they wanted. They wanted a jumping off point so that people could just walk right in here, start reading from the beginning, and just get heavily invested in every little piece of this universe, because right now it's still manageable. It's kind of like the Ultimates. Like most of the people that started reading the Ultimates are still reading all of those books.
Right.
Most of the people that started reading Energon are still reading all of those books. Because if you start them out at the same time, it's a whole lot easier, especially if it's worth reading. That's always the big one. It has to be worth a damn. But, if you start them at the same time, you're going to have a lot better time trying to get people to buy in and get more eyes on these books, because they're going to want to know what's going on all over this universe. And that's what's happening to me, man. I'm not even afraid to admit it. I've been caught hook, line, and sinker, and I've been reading DC stuff when it wasn't good. so yeah, yeah. So that's it for the release schedule. I mean, anything else you want to add there? You just sitting idly by until March, or you just looking at Batman right now?
Well, I mean, Batman is number 1, but I'm excited for those other. I'm excited to have, because I've enjoyed these 3 so far, the differences. So I'm excited to see what they do with these other 3. I definitely want to check it out.
If the cover art is any indication of what Martian Manhunter is going to look like inside, it's going to look wild.
That one's going to be trippy. Like that's the one I'm most excited for.
Yeah.
I'm just down to see that art. Yeah. See what happens.
For sure. All right. Well, let's run into the news. We got a little bit of news to cover. Like I said, when we put up on Instagram, this was going to be a supersized episode. We weren't joking, but we also didn't know it was going to be because of all this news. So here we go. All right, let's hit the news like we always do, starting with the aftermarket report thanks to Cover Price. And we are looking at the top 10, and Lord have mercy, it's back again.
It won't go away. It won't go away.
The DC All-In Special number 1 hits the Cover Price top 10 again this week, and coming in at number 6, it seems to like that spot. It always ends up there, it seems like. I believe it's been number 6 for a minute up there, every time it goes up there. So after a week off, everything kind of eases up and comes back thanks to Marvel Rivals. All those Marvel Rivals covers just popped off. And so there's very little room if you're competing with all the Mark Spears books up there. There's very little room to fill in the gaps, and Marvel Rivals did that last week. But this week, All In has found its way back to the top 10, and in the runners-up category, back at number 13 after a week off. It's like they both just dropped right back to where they were. Back at number 13 after a week off is Absolute Batman number 1. The cover A, Nick Dragotta cover A. Anything you're surprised about here?
Well, I could be wrong, but like every week, like so Mark Spears has a book, but then next week he has a different book. Like a book gets up there, leaves, and then maybe the artist or someone comes back. But like DC All In is the one book that keeps coming back of its own, which
Hmm.
is weird to me. I'm like, why is that book? It goes, comes back, it goes, it comes back. So I don't know. It's weird. Like I don't get what's going on. And then Batman. I mean, we're only into five, but I wonder why Batman keeps popping back up to not top 10 but top 20. I wonder why these things happen or what's pushing it for those
Yeah.
books.
Yeah, I think I think it's probably just the general hype of the all in the absolute universe. I think people are getting wise to all in special number one because I mean we've talked about it ad nauseum here.
Right.
That was the most overlooked book. Period. Like it is still the most overlooked book of this whole run right now. And I think people are finally getting wise to that, so we're seeing it change hands more. And I think a lot of comic shops had stacks of them sitting around,
Mm-hmm.
and the same thing online, right? Like so people. As they're starting to get into this, they're like starting to be like, "Man, this absolute stuff's really popping off." What was the first appearance? What was it? Absolute Batman #1? No, and they start doing some research, and they find out, oh, it was this DC All In Special book, and then they go online and find it for $5. You know, because
Yeah.
some random eBay comic shop online has 50 copies of it. Now it's starting to creep up. The price is starting to creep up. It actually hit an all time high, or it tied its all time high for a CGC 9.8 this week. Sold for $110, which is pretty good for a book that's not been out very long. And for a book that's not scarce at all, there's plenty of them around. So $110 for a 9.8 is pretty good. But it's still not an expensive book. It's still fairly easy to get. I think you between both of us, we've probably got 10 copies of it laying around here.
Yeah.
So it should have been more, but
It should have been more.
right. I mean, and shout out to Lando, who now is the proud owner of one of the signed copies we have laying around here. So yeah, I know that was safely delivered this week, so that's good. That made it all the way up to the Great White North. Uh, so yeah, I'm glad it got there safely and everything. But yeah, so this is the book that people I think are starting to get wise on now. Absolute Batman, I think it's just that one. I think is just hype. I don't know if it's anything more than hype. You know what I mean? Not that it's not warranted, but
Right.
I think that's just like, hey, this is the biggest absolute book. It's been great. It's probably going to hold some value over time, you would guess. You don't know, but you would guess. So people are probably specking it a little bit, or at least trying to play the lulls. If there are any lulls in the pricing, they're trying to play that game and try to get it
Right.
as cheap as they can. But it's still a hot book. Absolute is a big deal. Also, just saying, this could be due to some of the really killer MegaCon exclusives that are dropping this week. We could be seeing a little bit of bump. People seeing these great absolute MegaCon exclusives, and people saying, "Ooh, I need to go get that first issue, or I need to get that so I can have the set, the original, and this exclusive, or whatever." Right? So, might be some of that too. It's hard to tell, but it is nice to see these books continuing to dominate, or not dominate, but continue to sell on the aftermarket.
Bro, what are you? We can see you. What are you doing?
He's got his Rob Lowe sweatshirt on.
Hard part in the game.
Oh my! Well, here you're gonna have to sit here and just wait. He's been crashed. He's playing Spider Man, and
Oh,
so every once in a while he comes across the part that he can't do, so he needs my help. Say hey to everybody.
Hi,
Say buy Absolute Books.
I absolute but
there you go. So the PlayStation Spider-Man.
Yeah,
Yeah,
so
there's some spots in there that I had trouble
he
with. Let's
gets
be
the
honest.
ones that he struggles with is like when you had to switch to Mary Jane or Miles, and you had to sneak.
Oh, see, I haven't even played that one.
It was the 20. It was the first one.
Oh, was it the first one?
Yeah,
Okay.
sometimes you play as Mary Jane, and
That's
they're very
right.
limited. They're very. You got to sneak. You just sneak around.
That's right. Okay, I
So he
remember
gets
now.
stuck
I,
on
I
those.
was
Other than
thinking,
that,
yeah, I was thinking it was the one that came out with the PS5,
yeah.
the Miles, the like whatever it was. But yeah, yeah, no, there's some tricky parts there. So yeah, but I love that game. It was so good. It's been so long since I played. I need to replay it. But yeah, so good to see the Absolute Books back on the top 10 and the runners up list. And if you guys do want to check out that top 10, Tune in. Cover Price's YouTube channel on Tuesday nights. They cover the top 10.
Well,
And
I've been meaning to ask you this. When did they update the top 10? Is it a daily update or?
every week, once a week.
But
Yeah.
what day? So what
It's
day
either
is it?
Sunday or Monday.
Okay.
I'm gonna get a mean DM from some. I'm just kidding. Nobody sends mean DMs over there, but somebody's gonna send me a DM and say, you know what day it is. No, I'm just kidding. But no, yeah, it's I think it's either Sunday or Monday. It's obviously before Tuesday because the show goes live on Tuesday. And then after the top 10 show, you can catch the runners up on Laura's channel from Bird City Comics and her channel Nearing Nerdvana. They cover it literally as soon as the top 10 show ends. The runners up show starts on Nearing Nerdvana, so it's really kind of a cool setup. So moving on to some more news, Jason Aaron recently this week did an interview with Screen Rant's Joe Anthony Myrick. I advise everybody just to go and read the article because it's very cool. But I'm just going to try and paraphrase a little bit about what was said, and I'm probably do a terrible job, but we're going to talk about it. But Joe Anthony Myrick was talking to Jason Aaron about the differences in why the Absolute Universe is sort of been so easy to kind of latch onto with a universe that is so rich in legacy and history. And I believe something that was said was it's got to be hard to try to write something different when you have, in Superman's case, something like over 80 years, you know what I mean? 80 years of history on a character, and to try to write something fresh. And I think Jason said, he mentioned he said it's kind of like having your cake and eating it too, and that they're able to lean into it a little bit, but they don't have to actually rely on it so much. They don't have to worry so much about, does this go against something we did 20 years ago? Does this work against it? So they can play a little free with that. And it's interesting to him because, the villains are very obviously in control in this universe. You think about Lazarus, you think about the party animals, you think about, we haven't seen the villains in control so much in Absolute Wonder Woman, but we know it's kind of coming. And then we know ultimately this whole universe was created by Darkseid, right? So, it's very much, everything is kind of flipped on its head. But it allows fans to really get two sides of whatever they want. If you really are all about that kind of rich DC history, then you should go read Mark Waid right now, because Mark Waid is doing that and doing it very well with Justice League. But it kind of allows both of them to exist simultaneously. And I think that's probably why it's been so popular, is because it's such a different take, but it doesn't take away from some of the great work that's being done on the other side, specifically with Mark Waid. Any thoughts on any of that, of kind of how Jason described it?
No, and I love, that's what I like about it so much, because it's so different. It's the same but different. You have the same. You take these characters, like you said, it's hard to create something new. And anytime there's another new Batman or something, if it's not going to do anything different, I'm not going to be super excited about it. Or DC, especially, I'm not a big Superman, Wonder Woman, but to know that this is something a little different had me intrigued, so that's why I'm all in on it.
Right.
And then I think, like you said, 80 years, these are characters that could last a while too. They could start off a whole new thing, and redoing the characters and just taking them to doing a different approach with them.
Right.
Makes it more interesting. So, and not just them, their villains and everyone else around them. Everyone has something different going on that we're used to.
Right.
So I'm in.
Yeah, I think a really good point that Joe Myrick makes. He pointed out, and I have it written down here. For an example, the meaning and the legacy of the word Amazon has no meaning in Absolute Wonder Woman at all. Right, because that's not her backstory. She is an Amazon, she is one, but it has no meaning. And that has meaning to anybody who knows anything about Wonder Woman or who's ever read anything about Wonder Woman or even seen a Wonder Woman movie. You know the backstory, and you know about Themyscira and the legacy of the Amazons, but it doesn't exist here. She is an Amazon, but it doesn't matter to her in that same way that it does in the Prime universe. And so he says it may not the Absolute Universe may not have the legacy within its own storytelling framework, but it thrives because of the legacy that readers bring with it, making every shift, absence, or reinvention feel meaningful. And that is about as good as anybody could have put it. I mean, he absolutely hit the nail on the head. So shout out to the guy that wrote this article. He absolutely killed it. But it was just, people bring that with them, so it makes these changes feel so much bigger, right? Like, Bruce being poor feels crazy. Like, it just feels like a crazy shift. But it's because you already know, you've spent all of us have spent all of our lives knowing that Bruce is a billionaire, right? And so it uses it without specifically using that DC legacy that they have. It uses it kind of a little bit, like knowing that you already know. If you're sitting down and reading this, if you don't, you'll still enjoy it and understand it. But if you do, it makes the storytelling even more rich. And so it just shows that giving this to Scott Snyder and Jason Aaron and the rest of these creative teams that they have working on this was the best decision DC has made in a very long time, because they clearly understand what they want to do here, and that is by far the most important thing. So I love it, and we know from Jason Aaron's history at Marvel that dude can weave a story. We know that. So anything else you want to add on that very cool interview?
No, they beautifully covered it. They got me hooked. So
Yeah,
they're doing the right thing, and they got a bunch of prints.
Yep.
So what they are doing is working. So keep it up.
Clearly. All right, we got one more thing, and it's a quick one. We just got to give a shout out, because when something does well, we got to shout it out. So Absolute Superman #4 officially topped Comic Hub's weekly bestseller list for last week, beating out the Ultimates. That's cool. It's always hit or miss, but right now, people have been waiting for Absolute Superman. And unfortunately, to go along with this news, you're going to be waiting a little bit longer, because Absolute Superman #5 will be delayed by a week. Whereas it should have dropped on, I believe, it should have dropped on the 9th or something like that. It's just being pushed back a week. Maybe it's the 6th. I don't know. But
yeah,
it's just being pushed back 1 week. So the week that it should have come out in March, it is going to be knocked back just 1 week. So probably, I believe it's going to drop on the 12th. So
it's originally the 5th.
Yeah, there we go. Yeah, so originally the 5th, now it's going to drop to the 12th. So not a major bump, nothing crazy or anything like that. Nothing that we should all freak out about. Oh my God, it's going to be put on hiatus or anything like that. Just looks like a 1 week push. But a well-deserved shout out to the creative team for topping the bestseller list for the week. I think Comic Cub uses the top in size, the top 150 comic stores. So that's awesome. Good news for them. And and with that, we did it, and we still only barely topped an hour. I can't believe it. Believe it. So
Dude,
anything else to add?
No. Let's finish February and let's get this March Madness.
It's gonna be wild. It's gonna be a lot to keep up with.
We're gonna be doing 2 books, 1 show.
We are.
2 books, 1 show.
It's gonna get very busy. I need to show this, because we always talk about things we got, and we didn't talk about it in the open. We typically do. I didn't ask you if you got anything cool recently. Did you get anything cool recently?
Oh, well, if you're following on Rebel.Recess, you will see.
My man's back.
I am. I was like, I need to. We've been plugging it, and I haven't been using it, so I'm gonna try just for people out there every week to just post what I bought.
Yeah.
Anything else I may come across.
Great. You got the Venom 30.
Venom 37.
37. What is it with 37s, man? I'm trying to track down Swamp Thing 37 right now.
I don't know, but if you know me, you know I love Godzilla and Venom and Godzilla. Kidding me?
It's such a great cover. I sent it to you, and I was like, did you know about this? And you're like, yeah, I just don't have it. I'm like,
I don't know why I never got it. It's going on the wall. I'm definitely gonna put it up on the wall. So.
Yeah, it's a definite wall book. And speaking of wall books, I got 2 this week. One We got Swampy.
Somebody said their heat bill went up and they couldn't pay for no books, and he's pulling out this real fire. This is where your heat's coming from.
Swamp Thing number 6. I got that one for an absolute steal. I don't typically share what I get things for, but you know what I got it for.
It was a steal.
It got lost in the mail for a couple of days, and I was like, okay, this is what's going to happen. I get the steal of the century on a slab, and it's just MIA for 3 days. And then this one, not a steal. I got it under market value, which is nice, but not like a steal. Like I didn't run away with this one, but this one
he is saying he ran away with the first one.
I did run away with the first
one. Punched that guy in the face and took it.
It was not great. I felt bad, but the dude was super cool. He messaged me. He was like, "Hey, good get, and I'll send it out." So he was a nice guy. So, but this was the big one, and this is the big one for my Wrightson wall project that I'm doing with all these Bernie Wrightson covers, mainly Swamp Thing, and we got the big one. Well,
it's
one
so
of the
gorgeous.
big ones.
I love it.
Yep, presents pretty well. It's only a 6.5. It's got that little obvious tick right there, but we got to be cost conscious here, and I got a good deal on it. This book is not cheap, and so we got number 1. That's going to be probably the toughest one to get because I've decided that I will not be going to buy a House of Secrets 92. It is going to be a facsimile.
Oh, stop it. You'll be sending me one talking about, look at this deal I'm about to get, and it's going to be another super steal. I'm going to be upset.
I did say if the cover presents well, I'll take like a 1.5 or a 1.8 or a 2.
Yeah.
I don't care. If the cover looks good, I'll take it. If it's affordable, but that book, even in like a 1.8 or something like that, is like $700.
Yeah,
but it's understandable. It's a big book, but So anyway, so those are the big ones I got this week. I had to share them. Once that wall gets complete, I will share the view for everybody. But it's very cool. So we'll keep an eye out. If you want to know what's coming up this week, you want to be ahead of the ball. He's not affiliated with this show. He's just an awesome dude. So follow Lefteros on Instagram. It's at Lefteros, LEFTEROS, and that will be your one-stop shop for all of your FOC pre-ordering and new comic book day releases. I don't go to the comic shop without that pulled up before I walk in case I have bad service. It is pulled up. Sometimes I screenshot it. I'm not even joking. So it is an absolute must. So please do that. Go follow Cover Price. Follow our boy Lando over at Black Crown Comics. And finally, follow us. I'm on Instagram. You can find me at TrekWars Comics. My man Phil is on Instagram. You can find him at rebel.recess. And give us a shout. Come hang out. Come check out the stuff we're posting. And give us a like and a follow if you're listening on Spotify. Thank you. Please share this. And if you're following us on YouTube and watching us on YouTube, thank you for that. Please like and subscribe. Remember, we are doing a giveaway at 50 subscribers for that Jim Lee variant of Absolute Superman #1. So you can get the real color one, not the one from this week that's coming up. So other than that, that's all I got, man. You got anything else?
That's it. Share the show. Sharing is caring. So
Yeah.
if you are watching the show, share it with others, and maybe they like to join and get caught losing their money to comic books like we do too. So
Yep, for sure. And we got some fun things coming down the pipeline here. We've got we're going to look at getting a third special guest maybe here on one of these episodes coming up here soon. So that'll be fun.
A new Trinity
here, and it'll be a lot of fun. So I might even update the little graphic down there so we can put some new graphic down there just for a fun special guest episode. So once I sort out some of the particulars on that, I will give you guys some information there. But other than that, I hope you guys all have a great week. Thanks for hanging out with us on the Local Comic Podcast, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
Later.